let me know that if anyone has problems, so we can kind of help through that.
It's still installing. I think 80% done for me.
Okay. How about others? David, Gary, Guardani, Hamid, Raul, Rajo, Yao, and everyone, please let me know. Thank you, Jan. Thanks so much. Yep, done. Guardani, yep. Just wait a couple of more minutes, so everyone doing that. I just stopped that because I want to show you and we can see that how it works and see that's how it's doing that. So just wait a couple of more minutes. Done, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to again to share my screen again. Done, thank you, thanks so much. Just put it here so I can see the messages. Great, almost there, yeah, thank you. Cool. Indra, yes. Thank you. So if you're doing that, so I'm not sharing any pictures with you. We are going to use our camera for doing that. But if you need any data set, I can share something via link with you. But I think it's good practice that we do it with our camera. So at the same time, just please make sure that you have camera your setup here. I need to kind of stop my camera through here when I'm doing that because my computer couldn't use both camera through that. So you also may have to doing the same. Okay, so let's doing that. First of all, I'm going to create a new project. So just click on the new project. And then here, we are going to import some images. So very easy. We need images. We want to train them. You can image from your local computer. For example, you have the big list of the big images about the, for example, a specific kind of site or Apple or some products, but also you can use camera. Let's please everyone just click on camera. So, okay, I need to change my camera setting to be here. First of all, I need to see that which one I can show. Let me see. Yep. So this is me. You need to turn off your camera from Teams, unfortunately. Sorry, my room is a bit mess. So what we are going to do actually, so please, so what I did actually, so just again, let me show you what I did. I'm going to click on import over here. And then under the import, there are three options. One is camera, another one is images and dataset. So I can click on cameras. And here under the camera, you can see there is a setting option. Beside that, you can choose which camera you are going to use. I'm using my computer camera over here, so I just click on that. Want to wait that everyone reach that step. Please let me know in the chat. Oh, good. So let's go ahead. So what I'm going to do actually, anyone got the camera? So I'm going to actually create some position. You see that there is a button over here. So on the middle of the page, there is a button that is for taking the picture. So I can take some pictures that I'm taking a phone like this. Just click at that. So I just, one of them is added, or I can actually create different ones. So I can actually say, for example, I want to set, I want to create some images that I don't have phone. So I will start to push the button here to create some image without using phone. Something like this. And then I just call them as a, I call them as, for example, no phone. Phone. So I just start to set. Yeah, so you can actually use that one as no phone. Oh, there's actually I have some mistake on the kind of the typo. Let me correct them. So no phone, no phone. Just be careful, don't do my mistake. Maybe. Okay. So you see here that I have a label of no phone, so I don't have carry on any phone beside my head. So I'm going to actually to import another set with a phone. So I'm just click on that, and I'm going to kind of add some with phone. Something like this. So now we have to kind of do that one. There is a possibility that before doing that, you can actually create a label first and then add them to be much easier. But I said that's phone. This one is holding a phone. This one is holding a phone. So you see that is actually you can take the pictures by kind of clicking on that. So please just make sure to create some.
Laila, one question.
Yeah.
So how do I edit the label that I have added?
So here, if you click on that,
Yeah.
for example, on the no phone, I click here. Let me enable my here, so I can click here. So everything that is like they said no phone, so they are kind of doing that. So you can see this is all images that has label. These are the no phone, so you can click on them and change them, or you can click on that and change them. Yeah. So there are still some that I don't label them, so I'm just quickly going to label them. It can be just one picture. I just make it a fun doing that, but this can be kind of. You see that from unlabels moving to the other. So I turn on my camera so you can see me. So these are all phone. So as you see that everything here is dynamic, you see that you can see at the same time that you're labeling your pictures, you can see the actually the prediction happening at the bottom. So it says 60% of your email is actually or your images are something that. So that's a bit different. This is no phone, no phone, no phone. It's too many pictures I take. I shouldn't do that, but just want to show it to you. Done. Okay. So still you see that at the same time that is kind of labeling and unlabeling the data, the training happen. So the new training is starting to happen now. I just need to wait till it's finished. And then we will see that how it's doing that. And let's go through. Is everyone has a problem doing that? Just let me know in the chat.
So I have labeled everything. So I need to have something to test, right? So I need to take fresh.
Yeah, so we're going to the next step after that. So I just want to know, so we can go to the use after that. So you done that one? Have you see that's, for example, for me, it says 89% of emails are predicted correctly and 11% not. So have you see that one?
So for just a quick question, should all images be labeled, or should we have some without label?
No, all of them should have a label. So it should
Oh.
be, is a classification, is
Okay.
not object detection. So yeah, everything should be labeled.
Okay. Yeah.
So you see that here is actually I have 54 images, that 24 of them are with no phone and 30 of them was with phone. This is the kind of the things I did with the camera, but you can try it with importing image or other parts. So just doing that, just wait everyone do that part. Let me know in the chat if it's not working or if it's working very well. Just let me know. So Gordon, you can turn on your, because we are not many, so you can turn on your microphone and talk if you like. I see you are typing.
Get the predicted correctly or not? How can we get that one?
So can you see a message at the bottom of your page?
Yeah, I can see 5 images per label needed to start training.
So is training is going on and on here or not?
Yeah. Yeah, it started, I think.
Okay, yeah, it's take a bit time to, so for me it's done because I labeled everything and finished. So I couldn't see any sign here to the train. So if you still see a circle that showing, that means you need to wait.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. How about Indira? Is all good?
Yes, all good.
Cool. How about others? Everyone? Jerry, Raul, Bhavika, Hamid, everyone, just let me know if you need any help. Cool. So let's go ahead. So here you can actually, so you see that the trainings come here. So you can see that 97% for here, but there are some, because you see the pictures is a bit different. So I can correct them. I said this one, actually I use phone because the picture is not really clear. And this one is actually with phone. So I can correct them. Yep, so these are the one. Now we are going to use them. So I just train it again, so you can train it again. So based on what I mentioned, is going to train again. And you can use it. So this is again, I need to turn off my camera from Teams. So here you can kind of export some of the images, or again, use your camera to test. So here is a place that we test. So it's look at me, it said no phone. If I bring my phone here, it said it's phone. If I bring, for example, going down, no phone. You see the label change based on the what I'm going to do. So this is correct. So when I look at that and it said I'm using the phone. So if you click on use, you can see this actually telling you that what's the situation, so you can see that is it good or not. So it says no phone, and it's a phone. Here is a phone. It said no phone, so that's incorrect. So I said, yeah. So for example, this is kind of related to the location that you kind of using. So in obvious things it says correctly. So I said, yep, that's correct. That's no phone. Another one, for example, I said put like this. Oh, sometimes. Said no, this is wrong. So this actually you make it clear, or you can test it, or you can bring an image through that to kind of testing to see that how it's worked, or you can kind of export it from web app, from Onyx, or from other kind of the places to doing that. Cool. So these are the kind of the application. Now you imagine that this is a model. So it's create actually, you see that how it's easy. The good things about this one is so easy to create, to train your models to create that. After that, you can export it. So you can export it into the different application from the React with a TensorFlow, or you can kind of change it to the, download it to the, for example, Onyx, or to the REST, server to use it as a web app. You can do it. So I'm just export it as a TensorFlow. I just put one, for example, here. A folder, for example, I create, call it global AI. And I'm going to export it here. Optimize, I just said just export. So it's going actually to bring and create the model that is created as a kind of the very packed things there, and you can actually use it. Let me see if he's bring it over here. Okay. So done. So this is what is actually happened. So as you can see is, oh, sorry, I just open it with to show to you as a Python code. Oh, I don't want to run it. It's a, sorry, it's a runnable code. I just want to show what is happening here. So it actually has the kind of the Python code to run it, and also you can see the variables and everything, save model as a form, or just everything, the label that you have here, the model, the save model as a kind of the Python model. You can actually see that one. I'm not sure we can access to see that one over here, but it's possible to kind of see the model. Yeah, that's a really good one. No. So that's a model, and then later on you can use it in other tools. So just try. Kind of you can use it as an Android app, and the other, I know that some more integration coming. I couldn't said what sort of, but lots of interaction should comes from that, and I think kind of that's really interesting. So I will share the how you can use it in the Android. For example, you create that, and how you can use it in the Android, and the other is all available here, and you can kind of combine it through that. If you're using the Loop Connect, that is locally, you don't want to bring everything into the Azure or to the cloud, you can use the local one. That's a URL. That's kind of the application things that you can access through that. So that's a new technology coming up. I think lots of potential things through that. Just say put a name for that. And I think, yeah, that's pretty much about how we can actually use Loop for the very simple image classification. I'm not sure that is actually is an image classification, so you can have multiple label through that. It's not just for two label, but it's not an object detection. As the website also mentioned, the object detection and the text classification would come later. So this is a pre-built model. You don't access to the model behind the scene. That's a kind of the company that actually share that one, like a cognitive services, so similar to that, and you can actually embed it in your Android or other application. And just check it out. I think that's kind of potential mostly for the web developers. There are lots of things that they can kind of embed these image classification very easy with their application. So, any question, anything that you need to know more about that? Any thought? Indra,
I couldn't
what?
use it.
Sorry?
Is there any reason why I can't use it? If I click on camera, nothing happens.
Let me connect to your, let me stop my, and can you share your screen?
Sure. So if I see this one,
When we click on use,
is it trained properly now?
yeah,
It's
it's trained properly. I think that's how many images you have.
I have I think now it shows percent 17 images,
Okay.
8 and 9.
I think it says 5 images per label. Okay, that's good. Actually, no. Okay,
Should
sorry.
be
Can you
okay, right?
click on use? Can we click on
Yeah.
use to see
If I
that?
click on use and camera, nothing happens.
Okay, that's strange.
Did
Okay, when
any
you click on image, you can see that.
Yeah, image also, yeah. That you have to import, right? So
Yeah,
even
when you click on that, doesn't allow to you. Yeah,
yeah,
let's see request control. See what's the problem.
request control, okay, yeah.
Thank you. This train doesn't allow that one.
Yeah, I don't know whether other people also are facing the same.
Yeah, please let me know so we know that what's up. Yeah, let me see what's the problem with that. That's strange because it should work. So it doesn't allow you
It
camera or import
looks
or
like the training didn't complete because
yeah,
when
the
you
training is complete. Yeah,
sure, okay,
or
because
maybe we can.
when you click on training, yours has some kind of message after the 5 images per label, right? Needed to start training, but yeah, I don't have anything like that, but the message comes here at the top.
Okay, so it's a bit different. Maybe different. They may change something through that because
Yeah.
I installed it a month ago, but maybe that's a so they change it in a new version, something like that. I can check it out and let you know.
Yeah,
Send
sure.
you that. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sure. So that's a kind of the very, very simple things about lobe. And so I think we can head to the, so did you see the no code one? So if you're interested to see some of the things with other no code one, let me show you. I have some, there are some things with the AI builder. So if you search for AI builder, I think, uh, let me see. I have some of the things for the AI builder in Power Apps. So they are identical to this one. So you can do image classification and image processing through that. That's also very easy approach. So that's another way of doing image classification without writing any code and using the cognitive services and create an application. So if you're interested, I'll also send you the blog about that so you can see how that's another way to doing that. So let me share it in the screen. And so these are about the no code. So now in the next section of the kind of our global AI, we are going to talk about some kind of how to work with code. So Indra and Anu are going to show you that how we can actually doing a code base actually with the image classification and Azure function, how we can do that. Indra, could you please, stop sharing. Can you please share the screen so people can see that?
Sure, yeah. I'm going to start off. Share window. Yeah, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and then if we look at this one,
Yep, we can see that.
there are four steps to get to the Azure functions to create a Azure function. So first one will be get Azure access. So what I want you all to do is whoever want to get Azure passes, you let me know. If you have work accounts, you can use your work accounts. But if you need Azure passes, so let me know so that I can give you some, and then we will walk through how to activate your Azure pass and then set up the dev environment for the workshop, for the Azure Functions workshop. So you let me know in the chat.
I think Bovakia need a passport. Yeah.
Jerry, okay. Yeah, I will send the passes. So
So I think when you get these passes, don't straight away redeem it with your personal accounts or something. Wait until you get the
yeah, you can do.
instructions, okay?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you will lose your pass and you can't use it and you will get some error. So if you, Indira, when she shares the pass, just wait until you get the instructions on how to redeem it.
Yeah, just give me a minute. Bhavika, you're getting your first one. So just copy the this thing and keep it. So that is Bhavika. And okay, you Govardhani, you also need it. So I'll just
So again, for people who just join us, we are going in the second part. We are going to do the image classification by Anu and Indira. So if you need the Azure Pass, please let us know in the chat. So Indira can send to you one.
Jerry, I sent yours, and then here is your one, Govardhani. Okay, so now what you need to do is uh, create a new account on outlook.com. The safest thing is that. So just go to outlook.com. Maybe I'll share my screen for that.
So this is basically a new Outlook account. Don't use your existing accounts or anything. Create a brand new Outlook account.
So for that, yeah, just go to your browser and then just go outlook.com. And oh, it's going somewhere. So I'm just going to sign out. And then close it and then go back again. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to go into that again, outlook.com. And then click on the create free account here. And I'm just going to choose something that I haven't chosen earlier. So I'll just say Indira B, and then let's see whether it is available. Indira B at outlook.com. So it's already existing. So Indira Bandari 9, I'll say. Hopefully that, yeah, okay. And then you can create your password. I'm just creating my password. And then you can untick that one if you want to, and then go next. Let me know if I'm going fast. So, okay, yes. And then I'll just say save and then next. So just choose whatever country you are from. New Zealand. New Zealand, birth date, give some date, something. Yeah, make sure you are more than 18 years old. So to 19. 5 or something. 95. 1955. And then create your account. Solve the puzzle. I don't know. Please solve the puzzle too. So we are. How should we solve this puzzle? Okay. Pick the lion. I think that's the lion. Not quite right. Okay. Pick the lion. Okay, this is the lion, right? Try again. Okay. Pick the lion. This is the lion. Okay, one done. And pick the lion again. That's the lion. Okay. Did everyone create the account? Bhabika, Jerry, stay signed in. Yeah, maybe. And Bhabika, Jerry, Govardhani. Okay, so now you will be going into this one. The next step is go into Microsoft Azure Pass.com. So go into a new tab and go to Microsoft Azure Pass.com. I'll post the link if you need in the chat. Let me know if I'm too fast. Oh, access is blocked to Outlook for Jerry. Do you have a work account, Jerry? You can click on the link for Azure Pass. If you have a work account, you let me know. Maybe we could activate your Azure Pass based on your work account.
We need to make sure that it doesn't have an existing Azure subscription linked to that. Otherwise, we will have issues. Yeah.
Okay. Use incognito. Even I think even incognito mode access will be blocked. Okay, you can use mine. After I set it up, I'll give you mine, Jerry. So don't worry. Okay, so did everyone get to here Microsoft Azure Pass? So once you get there,
Yes.
just go start and then choose the account. When you are you want to pick the account, choose the latest account. That is not the work account, but I need to choose bandari9@outlook.com and next. So you choose the account that you have just created and then click on next. And then confirm Microsoft account. Click on confirm Microsoft account. And then now you enter the promo code. Jerry, I'm entering your promo code so that I can give you the access to this one. So copying that and pasting the promo code here. And then now you can claim the promo code. So don't refresh your browser, just wait till you get the confirmation that your code is valid. Yeah, so it will confirm make sure the email is that, and then it will confirm your. Now sign up. Okay, just click I agree and just sign up. There are no mandatory fields, right? Yeah. Is everyone till here?
Yes.
Okay, so just sign up.
It's just asking phone number.
Okay, maybe you need to give your phone number, so just give your phone number. Address as well. Okay, so these are mandatory fields, just give some address and then sign. Don't refresh your browser, just wait. I'll say that and then submit. Okay. The next step, now we have, I think, the set up the Azure account. So now you can log in to portal.azure.com using that account. See, now the account is there. And then if you look in the subscriptions, I think you will have the subscription. So let's look at the subscription. I don't have any subscription.
Just remove the checkbox which says show only subscription selected. And just refresh the screen and see there.
It's the same, right? Default directory.
Yeah, just sometimes like when you have that global
It's
subscription
maybe.
filter.
Oh, it's still okay. Got you. It's still showing.
Okay, go back to home. Just try creating a resource group to see whether it is actually showing any subscriptions.
Subscription, yeah. Okay, create a resource. Shall I create the cognitive?
Just try resource group itself first, because we need to create a resource group just to test it to see whether the subscription is getting listed there.
Yeah. Resource group.
create here.
Create
So you
and
don't need to create the resource group. We are just checking whether it is showcasing the.
subscriptions.
No, it says like create a free account.
Didn't get. What
It
about?
says you have been approved. Just go back to the email. The email says like you have been approved.
Oh, so you
Maybe sign out and
click
sign
on
in.
the. No. I think we need to click on the thing, right? For an Azure Pass sponsorship. Okay, I think we just need to close that.
Refresh or yeah, close it and reopen portal.azure.com.
Portal.azure.com. It takes a bit of time, maybe.
Click on subscriptions again.
Let's see, view.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, it's there. So
Hey.
can everyone see? Jerry, I'm going to give you this one. So from here you can take over, Anu.
Cool.
I'll just disconnect and then I'll pass on the details to
Sure.
Jerry.
Did we provide the workshop instructions URL to them, Indra or Leila?
No, we
Okay,
have.
so
Yeah.
we can share that with them, right? Because that has got step-by-step
Okay, yeah,
instructions.
I can share it now.
Cool.
Just let me share that one over here. I think. So, yep, you can check that one. Yep.
Cool. So what we are going to look at is you would have received a link on the chat window, which is you have got a couple of workshops that you can play with, but we are going to focus on just the first workshop related to the Azure function that can see. So the first thing I'm going to highlight to you is more around uh, the lab one, which is related to the Azure function. So first thing is you have already claimed your Azure Pass. If you have any issues in claiming your Azure Pass, put that in the chat window because this is like a prerequisite. So without the Azure subscription, you won't be able to complete this particular lab. So make sure if you have any problems in getting your Azure Pass, just let us know. But again, how to claim it, the instructions are here. The key point is, as Indira mentioned, you need to have a new Outlook account. Don't try to use your existing accounts because if it has any Azure subscription already linked to that, then you won't be able to see the new subscription and your pass will be redeemed also. So it will become in a useless state. So make sure if you want to activate or redeem your Azure Pass, you have to create a new Outlook account. So can I get some information in the chat window to see like whether you have redeemed your Azure Pass so that you're ready to get into Lab 2, which is setting up your dev environment. Just to highlight to you, like this particular lab involves a bit of understanding around Visual Studio, a bit of Python. So you will be doing a lot of copying and pasting, but having a knowledge of that would be useful. And also like if you don't know, not a real problem at all because there are step-by-step instructions available in here, so you will be able to easily follow through. And I have run through this lab myself, so that's why I'm validating the instructions are working. Okay, cool. Thanks, Bhavika. So if you're there, I'll just walk you through the instructions so then you can go through, and I'll also share my Visual Studio Code environment. One of the prerequisite for this particular lab is to have Visual Studio Code. So just in case if you haven't got it installed, you can install Visual Studio Code from this link. I will just put that in the chat window. Even though we are going to create some Azure resources to start with, side by side, if you don't have Visual Studio Code, you can get that download process kickstarted. Okay, so Visual Studio Code, if you don't have one already, just kickstart the download process, and then we will move on to looking at how to set up your dev environment. So don't, just in case if you can't rush and do this lab in the time that you have got currently, no issues, just follow through the instructions. And this link is always available for you and your Azure Pass is always available for you. At any point in time, you can continue it in your own pace. Okay. So just follow through the instructions that will help you to understand what is this lab is all about and how do you go about doing it. So the first process you will be doing is to create a development container to Azure. So we are going to use a Azure container instance. So pretty much think about like a VM, right? Historically, we used to create a virtual machine which acts like your own development environment, and you can install all the tools that you require. But given now with the new like acronym like what is there in the market, which is dockers and containers, so we are going to create a Azure container instance and pretty much use that instance as our development environment in order to do this lab. So this particular deploy a development container to Azure is all about setting up an Azure container instance. So click on this link, which is deploy to Azure. So when you click on that, basically you would have already redeemed Azure, right? So this is going to take you to your own subscription. So currently I'll be getting into my subscription. And as you can see here, you will have your own subscription listed in here, and you can create a new resource group. So again, let me put the instructions back here. So here, as it says, you have to click on create new to create your own resource group. And in this case, you can create a resource group name called dev container underscore RG and click OK. And it is always advisable when you create a resource group to pick the region that is closest to you. So I think we have participants from New Zealand as well as participants from rest of the part of the world. So if you are based in New Zealand, I think for us the closest one currently is Australia East. So pick that as a region. But if you are from the rest of the part of the world, depending on where you are located, just pick the closest region that you can see that is applicable to the country you are living in. So that's it. So you need to have a new resource group name. Here I have already got a dev container created, and you can choose the region and also like what is the name of the container. So you can just leave the name as it is, or you can pick a new container name. Here I have used a dev container as my container name, or you can just provide dev container Anu or dev container Leila. So whatever gives you, because we are not following naming conventions here, right? As long you understand what you are creating as a resource, that should be sufficient enough. And because I'm advising this because it's a playpen area, but if you're doing production, yes, you worry about naming conventions. For now, just create a name for your container instance. So that's it. So once you provide that, you can click on review and create. And this is going to go and do the validation. And once the validation is passed, then you can click on the create button, which is going to provision your Azure resources. Note it down. It will take at least 1 to 5 minutes for the resource to be created. Just be patient. And if you click on, say, make sure you click on create and validate. Validation process will happen. Post the validation process, you have to click on the create button. And if you leave 1 to 5 minutes, then pretty much the deployment will be completed and you will be able to see the resource in here. Let me quickly show you the resource I have got created. So what you will be able to see once you create that is pretty much something similar to this. Just let me get in here. Cool. So this is my dev container that I have created. And once I have successfully created my Azure resource, this container will be created under my resource group. And as you can see, I have got a public IP address available in here. So this is what you will be seeing under your dev container. There will be a resource group called dev container underscore RG or whichever resource group name you have provided. And the dev container instance is available in here. Cool. So that is our first step is setting up our dev environment. Once your dev environment is set, make sure to copy the IP address. So if you're not sure about where to look for the IP address, once you're provisioned your container instance, right? When you navigate to that, you'll be able to see the IP address. Just click on here to copy it to your clipboard and put it in a notepad or somewhere in a safer location because you will be referencing that next. So this is the IP address, and how do you get the IP address is available in here. So that is the first part, which is provisioning your container. The next part is actually how do you set up Visual Studio Code to use your development container. I'll hold off for another couple of minutes. And if you have just created your Azure container instance, if you can put that in the chat window, that would be good. So then I will move on to how to set up your Visual Studio Code to use the development container next. So make sure you pick a stable version because it says like you can't download a preview version of Visual Studio Code, just to use a stable version of Visual Studio Code. So once you have done this previous step, which is provisioning your Azure resource, just ping me in the chat window, then we'll move on to the Visual Studio Code part. So as I mentioned, the step-by-step instruction, if you follow as per the instruction, it cleanly works, and you will be able to see that when you are working through the lab itself. So if you have installed Visual Studio Code, right, you can launch your Visual Studio Code, and this is how it will look like. So I will just pretty much remove the extensions for now. So this is how you will have a welcome page, but I have got a notebook opened here. But pretty much this is the interface you will be having. Depending on the theme that you have chosen, whether it looks in, you have a black theme or a white theme, you may have a different background. But if you install Visual Studio Code, you can open the Visual Studio Code as part of the next step, because that's what we are going to do. Opening Visual Studio Code, and we are going to install a remote SSH extension. The reason why we are opening up this extension is because you need to connect your Azure container instance that you provisioned in your previous step, right? So Visual Studio Code needs to talk to that Azure container instance, and that's why we are installing this extension next. And I'm hoping you are following through. And if you have any questions, feel free to unmute or and ask us, or put the question in the chat window. Happy to assist you if you get stuck with any particular step. Cool. So I'm hoping like you would have created the Azure resource successfully. So now the next step is all about setting up Visual Studio Code in order to use the development container. Hopefully, if you have downloaded Visual Studio Code, you can just launch it by typing just in the search bar like Visual Studio Code. But if you haven't installed it, here is the link from the instructions page where you can go ahead and install. Yeah, thanks, Leela. So as you can see here, Leela is just giving you the instructions if you're joining late to the chat or to the session. So pretty much follow through the instructions in the chat window. I think Leela is just letting you know where we are currently with the lab.
Yeah, and also if anyone needs any Azure passes, please let me know.
Great, thanks, Indra. So the next step is opening Visual Studio. And one of the thing is like you have to install this remote SSH extension, right? So if you open Visual Studio Code, this is Visual Studio Code. What you can do is on the left hand side, you can see a set of icons, and one of such icon is your extensions. If you click on this extensions, you can see a whole heap of extensions that you can install. So what you need to do is as per the instruction, so you have to search for remote SSH instruction. Normally I used to copy this and put it in Visual Studio Code here and search for it. So there you go. So this is the extension. Here I have already installed, so that's why I'm saying uninstall or disable. But in your case, you'll be able to see like an install button here. Instead of uninstall, you will have an install button. Just click on install, and that is going to install your remote SSH client. So that is a prerequisite, and make sure get it installed in Visual Studio Code. So this is your extensions link. So if you're not sure where to look for extensions, it is on your left hand side. And if you navigate to this icon, this is what the extensions tab is. Search for remote-SSH in the marketplace here, and you'll be able to see this. Click on it and then click on install. If you are already installed, well and good. So that is the first part with Visual Studio. Make sure you install the remote SSH extension, and post installing the extension, now we can use that extension to connect your remote dev container. So this is the Azure container instance that we provisioned on the Azure portal. We will be just going through the remote dev container in order to connect to that. So the steps for going to do that. So I'll just move these instructions here. So this is my remote SSH client. And as you can see here, this is what the green color button at the top left hand corner. So once you install this extension, right, you will be able to see this green color button here. So you can see that with the arrows here, and that's the icon they are referencing in the screenshot. If you click on that, now you can see a ability to connect to a remote host. So what you can do is click on connect to host, and here you can just type the user at host. So in this case, it is going to be global AI. So what I'm going to type is global AI. And what we are going to do is followed by the IP address. So what I'll do is at the rate, the IP address is in my previous step, I have copied the IP address, right? So this is from my Azure Container Instance. So if you're not sure, in the Azure Container Instance, you have an IP address. So copy that IP address and paste the IP address in here. So this is what the format you have to. So user at host is nothing but global AI at 51 point. This is my IP address, but make sure whatever IP address that you have provisioned is what you should be typing here. So once you put that, you can press on enter. So this is going to open a different Visual Studio instance, no issues with that. And then as you can see here, you should be able to select what should be the operating system here. I want to use the Linux platform. So once I choose the Linux platform, then I have to just type my password. So the password is just use the same password that what you are seeing in the instructions, which is back together, where the 2 is a digit. So I will just type back together. And now pressing enter, I'll be connected. So how do I know whether I'm connected? So you see the status here. This is opening the remote session, and it is now showing my IP address here correctly. So which means I'm connected to my Azure Container Instance. So once your Azure Container Instance is connected, now it's a time for you to open a terminal. So terminal is normally right at the top. Click on new terminal. And as you can see here, this is now connected to your Azure Container Instance. So this is pretty much how you will integrate your Visual Studio Code with your Azure Container Instance that you have provisioned. So there are quite a few other extensions that you have to install. So let me wait until then so that just to make sure that you have followed through the instructions. So what I was doing is pretty much following what was given in the instructions area. So the material that lab material that has been provided to you, the link here, I'm pretty much following through step by step in here. The only key thing is you need to have your own IP address of your Azure container instance. The format is global AI is your user, put the authorite symbol, and the IP address is what you see on the Azure portal for your Azure container instance that you provisioned. Cool. So then pretty much the rest is the same. So I saw a new VS Code window, which I showed you. It got opened. I chose the Linux platform and then I hit on continue. Then what I able to see was like I need to enter a password. The password is nothing but this is the password back together. So type this as the password. Once the password is entered, you are pretty much connected to your remote dev container. The final way to confirm that whether you are connected to the container or not by navigating to the terminal, and this is going to open up a new terminal window. You can see here the letter in greens. This letter in green is actually showing you that it is connected to your Azure Container Instance. The other way to validate is also on your bottom left-hand corner. You can see here the SSH and your specific IP address of your Azure Container Instance will be listed there. Cool. So until you have completed these steps, I'm conscious of the time too. So I will try and cover what is in this lab first, and then you can also do this in your own pace, no issues at all. Pretty much I'm just running through what the instructions are saying here, but I will add a bit more context to those instructions. So there are a couple of additional extensions that you need to install. So the reason is like we'll be using Jupyter notebooks and we'll be using Python as the coding language in this lab. So which means I need to look for MS Tool AI Jupyter extension. So as usual, to install an extension, you click on the extension tab and click on MS AI Jupyter. As you can see here, I have already installed this extension. If not, you will have an install button here. You can go ahead and install the extension. The second extension is MS Python. Just I will search for that. And again, here I have installed this extension. In your case, if you haven't installed, just click on install. So only thing is when you are installing the new extensions, right? Sometimes Visual Studio Code will say, I have to reload Visual Studio Code. So don't panic with that. Allow it to reload. It will ask you to put the password because it will try to establish the connectivity to your Azure container instance. To do that, it will ask for you to say, can you type the password again? So when you reopen Visual Studio Code, make sure to remember that password, which is back together, which is on the lab 2 itself. So just type that is the password. And if you type the password, you'll be connected again to the Azure container instance. So this is mainly when you're installing the extensions, you may need to restart or reload Visual Studio again. During that time, it will be asking you to put the password again. So the password is back together, which is available in the lab 2 instructions. So copy that password, put that again, and you'll be connected again to your Azure container instance. Cool. So that is what it says, reload. Reload is basically reopening Visual Studio instance. If it asks you for the password, enter the password, which is back together again. And now pretty much we are good to go in terms of like how do you log into Visual Studio Code and connect your Azure portal. So once you have connected once you have opened up your terminal window, now you can start issuing these commands. So the first command you will be issuing in the terminal window is AZ login, and it will allow you to navigate to that and it will ask you to log in to your Azure portal. So if you are logged in already to the Azure portal as part of redeeming your Azure subscription, pretty much the credentials will be there and you will be just saying complete that. And finally, you may need to enter a code that is displayed on the terminal and same account. So whatever you used to redeem your subscription, you'll be just using that window. So basically what it does is like it is allowing you to authenticate you with your credentials and come back to Visual Studio Code terminal window to say like you are connected to your Azure portal. And once you are connected, the only way to check whether you are connected to the Azure portal is by issuing this command in the terminal window. And this is going to show you the Azure subscriptions that you have got in there. So you can just connect to that and you can show that. Let me quickly show you whether I can showcase this into my terminal window here. So here is a login. To sign in, it is saying like I need to use to open this page. I'll copy this particular one or I can click in here. So I need to use the code. Okay. So now if I go back to my Visual Studio Code, copy this code, that's what it is looking for. Pick the account. This is my account I'm interested in. Cool. So now I have signed in successfully. Now if I go back to Visual Studio Code, we close this window. So now what I can do is now I can just start issuing some of the commands that I require. So if I go here, so now I can start putting this command. So this is the command you will be trying here. So this will show you what is the subscription you want to get into. So this is going to list out all my subscriptions. So this is the only subscription I have got in my Azure portal. So now I have signed in and I can also list my subscription that is available in here. Cool. So that step is completed. So now we are pretty much ready to start developing using Visual Studio Code and using our remote dev container. So the key things that we completed in this particular lab is we deployed a dev container in an Azure container instance, which we saw. We connected our local Visual Studio environment to the dev container. We installed some additional extensions on Visual Studio Code. We connected our Azure account using the Azure CLI to our dev container. And also we set the default subscription. So in your case, you don't need to worry about it because we have only one subscription. So you don't need to worry about the default subscription because that is the only subscription you have got. Normally setting up a default subscription, we do that. Sometimes a single account may have multiple subscriptions, right? So you need to clearly tell to Visual Studio Code when you're provisioning resources, which particular subscription you need to use. And that's why you set up a default subscription. If you have only one subscription, then no issues with that. So you don't need to even worry about doing this step. Cool. So if you're done with that, so now our lab environment is completely set up. Now the next step is all about what are we going to do in this lab. So this lab is all about Azure function that can see. So in if you are thinking about like a few years back, who would have thought like you will be able to create an Azure function to tell what you can see in your images. Now it is really possible with the help of artificial intelligence that you can just write a few lines of code, upload some images, and then you will be able to create a model in order to figure out. And then when you are testing the model with the image, it can automatically detect what is there in that particular image itself. So this hands-on lab, as you know, it's a 2-hour hands-on lab, and we don't have that much time right now with us. But I will just walk you through what this lab is trying to do and also see what is the output you will see by the end of completing this lab. And prerequisite, we have already covered it off. And the level is like 100 to 200, so beginner to intermediate. And a little bit of programming knowledge and Azure will be helpful, but you have step-by-step instructions that you can follow. If you don't have that also, it's not a big issue. So the first step is all about training the model. So before we go ahead and do that, we need to set up a few more Azure resources. So you can do this now. You have got Visual Studio Code connected with your Azure portal, right? You can run this command straight away in Visual Studio Code. So I'm not going to run this because I have already created all the resources, but I'm just letting you know, just to copy it, and you need to just provide a resource group name and the location, and you can start working on that in that fashion. So in my case, I have already, when you created the first resource on Azure, right, you would have created a resource group. So don't create another resource group. You created this resource group called dev container underscore RG, right, under which only you would have got this Azure container instance. When it says resource group here, you have already created this step. So you don't need to go ahead and create it again, okay? The next thing you need to do is to create a cognitive service account. So this is going to be an important part because we are going to use custom vision training in this particular example. So to use custom vision training, I need cognitive services to be provisioned of the kind which is custom vision training. And under this particular resource group, you will provide your resource group name and the location where the resource group is available. So key thing here is whenever you create a resource group and any resources under the resource group, make sure the resources are created within the same location where the resource group is created. You don't want to create a resource group in Australia East and create a resource in what do you say, like Central America or even like West Europe. Okay, so keep them all located in one location. So once you run this command, what you get to see is there was one question someone asked me saying, do I really need to use Visual Studio to provision these Azure resources? Not really. So if you're convenient in provisioning resources via the Azure portal, you can go ahead and manually do that. You don't need to run the AZ commands, but you're comfortable running the AZ commands, you can go down that path to provision the resources. So here I have got a custom vision cognitive service created, available in under my resource group in here. The key part to note is with any cognitive services, the keys and endpoint. These are the key important information. I need to know what is the endpoint for my cognitive service and what is the keys associated. And if you click on show keys, you can able to see the key information. So these are the two important things that I will note it down once I provision my cognitive service. And that's what they're asking you to do here. So once you have done that, then pretty much you can get the API keys and endpoint URL. What I showed is how you easily get that in the from the Azure portal. You can also run the AZ commands, these commands here in order to get the same thing, which is your endpoint URL and your keys. The next step is in Visual Studio Code, we are going to create a blank notebook called like code.cv.ipynb, which is basically a Jupyter notebook, a Python Jupyter notebook. So what we will be going to do is just to go and type this. I'll quickly type this in the terminal window so you get to see what it really does. So this is not the window I want it to be in. Okay, so this is the window I want to be in. So I'm going to just type code and say like, okay, cv.ipynb. So do you want me to open? Yes, there you go. So this is a blank window that is opened in here. And so now you can start typing whatever the commands that they have got in here. So the first command, as you can see here. So this is I typed this code in the terminal window, which is here. And now the next step I'm going to do is just to type print hello world, just to make sure like whether my code is going to work or not. Just a small piece of code, type it in here. There you go. And now I'm going to execute. So if you want to execute a command in a notebook, right, you have this play button beside here. So which is nothing but an execute cell command. Run that. And now this is going to ask which version of Python you want to use. I'll just use my 3.8.10, and it is going to connect to my Python kernel, and then it is going to execute the command post that. So just wait for a few minutes and you will be able to see the output here. And if you're not exposed to notebooks before, Jupyter notebooks are really good in terms of you can put your commands, you can run your commands, and you can also execute them and see the output all in one place. And previously what we used to write is we write a code in a code file, then you go to the command prompt and execute it to see the output, right? With the notebooks, you can then and there see the output straight away. So here I'm writing code, but you can also write Markdown. Markdown is nothing but instructions. Think about notebook is like a documentation. So if I want someone to run this series of scripts, what I'm running, right? I can just pretty much put all the steps in the notebook and write some instructions here. And also I can show the output. The classic example is, let me show you something here. So you will be continuing to add a set of code as part of your notebook. So the next thing what I'll be doing here is copying this code, which is actually creating a custom vision model. And part of that, I need to download a data set. So I'll be just copying this piece of code, which is to download the data set, and go back to my Visual Studio Code. And so this is my Visual Studio Code here. And this is my notebook, right? I need to put copy paste the code. So I need to click another code segment here. Just right click and paste it here. So there you go. So here it has got. So this didn't copy in a nice way. Normally I wouldn't copy them in one string like this. So what you can do is to put that in a notepad or something just to avoid this. Or the easiest way what I can do is if you, yeah, the copy is working here. So click on that icon. That is pretty much the copy. So this is much more readable format rather than try to have everything in one line. So this is a piece of Python code. What it allows you to do is to download a data set, which is Simpsons Lego dataset image. And this is going to download it in this path, and it is going to unzip the data set. So as you can see, it is a zipped data set. This is going to unzip the data set. Similarly, you have to just create a new code segment and run the pieces of code that has been listed here. The next thing is you need to create a custom vision project using this piece of Python code. Then you will be setting up the endpoints. Make sure the endpoint here is what you saw on the Azure portal. So I showed you this endpoint URL, right? This is the endpoint you will be replacing here with, okay? And similarly, the training key is nothing but show the keys, copy one of the key and paste it in your notebook. So once you copy this, you need to replace the endpoint and replace the training key. So once you have done that, the rest is pretty much straightforward because you are setting the variables here, and then you create another code segment, put this information, which is actually creating an instance of your custom vision training client. And then what you are going to do is for each and every domain, you are going to list out the domain IDs. I'll show you the output of all these commands. So the main idea is you have to copy each and every code segment here and put that in your notebook. So let me quickly show you how a typical completed notebook will look like. So this is exactly how a notebook will look like. So I have got my print hello world, importing my data set. Then you can see I have initiated my cognitive services client. And here I have set my endpoint and the access training key, copied from my own Azure portal, the provisioned cognitive service, which is the custom vision service, and set the credentials, printed my domains associated with my images. As you can see here, all the domains associated are listed here. So this is the output because I executed each and every cell. And then I created a training project called Lego Simpsons. And then I am just going through the directory to list all the images for my training. And followed by that, I'm uploading all the images to my training environment. So here, as you can see, this uploading process will take some time. So just bear with us. Once the uploading is completed, you will see the done uploading message. Until then, you have to be patient enough to wait for the upload process to complete. Following that, there will be training that will take place with the images, because now you are going to train your model based on the images that we have already got in our training set. Same thing here, this training process will take 4 minutes. So once the training is completed, then pretty much you will be exporting the model for available to be in used. So that is the key thing here. So if I just put a ls command here, you should be able to see my data train, where the training information will be there, data test, where I'll be using the model for testing purposes. The model folder will hold the model that is trained. So this notebook will take care of preparing your model that you will be using in your Azure functions for testing purposes. So pretty straightforward. Once you set up the environment, pretty much you need to keep on adding. So as you can see, new code, copy the code here. The only thing that is going to be different is you need to provide your provisioned custom vision endpoint as well as the training key associated within your Azure subscription. The rest is pretty much you can copy and paste as per the lab, and then you can keep executing it. So that is pretty much what is your first set of the lab is around training your model. So once your model is trained, now the next step is all about creating my Azure function. And the main idea for creating the Azure function is so that I can use this function. Okay. So this Azure function is going to be a Python function, and this is going to be a function written in Python language. Azure function comes in different flavors. So if you don't know much about Azure functions, what you use Azure functions for is normally when you want to run training, like test this your machine learning models, right? You don't need to keep running a server so 24/7, because when you're running things on premises, you would have spent a lot of money upfront, so it's okay. But when you are running on the cloud, running a VM or anything like a web application for 24/7 is going to cost you the money, where Azure functions are really yes, it will, because I think you have to choose a Mac instead of Linux, because you will be installing Visual Studio Code is a cross-platform solution, and that's the reason you're using it instead of Visual Studio, because Visual Studio you can run it on only Windows, so you'll be able to use that on a Mac without any issues. Okay, so getting back to this. So Azure Functions, the main reason for using Azure Functions is you can spin up, write an Azure Functions, and when you execute the Azure Functions, right, when you really use them, that's when Azure is going to spin up a VM, execute the function, and then it will be used. So the key idea in here is all about Azure Functions is all about like spinning up the VM only when you are needed. Once the function is executed, it is going to like this allocate your VM or deallocate your VM. So you will be charged only for the duration of the execution of the Azure function, not 24/7. So you create the function, keep it ready, and when you access the function, that's when how long the function executes for is what you will be charged for. So in this scenario, we have created a new function. So again, you can do this again in through your terminal window itself. Or if you are an Azure portal person, you can create an Azure function via the Azure portal also. So let me quickly show you my Azure portal where I have created the Azure function. Sometimes when you work with multiple windows, you don't even know which window is holding things. So I think it's in here. This is my Eventbrite. Let me just bear with me. Cool. Okay, so if I get back to my resource groups in here, dev container, let me zoom this a bit. Sometimes I work on a different low resolution. And okay, great. So I have got a function app, and this is the Azure function I talk about, and Azure function and function app are the same. So Azure functions come in different flavors. Like you can create a function which can be a HTTP trigger. HTTP trigger is basically it's an endpoint that you can call, or it can be a time-based trigger. So normally in this scenario, when I want to do testing, that's when I want to execute the function. So this is more or less a trigger-based. So someone is uploading an image, right? So then the function has to execute. The other one you can do in Azure function is time-based trigger. So what it means is, okay, every night in the 9 o'clock to between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock, I want the Azure function to run. You can schedule that. So you can create different flavors of Azure functions. For this example or the lab, we have created something called as HTTP triggered Azure function. So I have, and which you can see it by here. When I created the Azure function, you can just go ahead and hit on create to create an Azure function. And as part of creating it, you can specify under which development environment you want to create. And then from there on, you can continue with that. So here I have created the Azure function, or if you are not comfortable with the portal, jump onto the terminal window, run those commands as specified in the lab. That will create the Azure function for you. So in a nutshell, when you create the Azure function, right, you will be able to see the code itself. So this is the Python code that is going to test your model that you created in the previous one. So you can see the language is Python, and this is the piece of code that we have already got in the lab here. This is your Azure function code. And so you will be copying the model to the function, and you will be just opening the requirements.txt. So this will have the packages the function needs to install in order to get this code to work. So in this case, you need the ONX runtime, and these are the other two packages that you will be using. So if you are from a Python background, you can relate to those packages, which will help you to do the image recognition as with using your model. So this is all you will be doing in your Visual Studio Code. Once you have done that in Visual Studio Code, you can pretty much deploy your Azure functions using these commands. And what I was showing was once my Azure function is available, right? This is how it will be looking on the Azure portal. So this is my Azure function, as you can see here. This is going to do the testing of my image based on the model that I have created. And what I'm going to look for is like, okay, is this going to detect what is in that image when I'm invoking it? So that is your Azure function part. The final thing is, how do I invoke this? Because I created the model, I created the Azure function. How do I know what I need to see as part of this model? So first thing is, this is the URL, this is the sample image that you are going to test. And what you need to see is like when I invoke my Azure function and pass this image, I should see an output like this, which means I have successfully created my Azure function and it has detected what's in the image. So let me quickly show you what's in the image for what is the image we are going to test before we start the testing process. So this is the image. So this is the BART.jpg image, which is the Simpson one that you have got in here. And when you put this image link into my Azure function, I will be able to see what is the description comes as. So how do I call my Azure function? That's the next part you need to work it out, right? So my Azure function can be called using, if I go back to the overview here, this is the URL for my Azure function. Okay, so once I created my Azure function, that way I can access my Azure function is by using this URL. I'll copy this URL. I'm going to put the URL in here. The next thing I'm going to do is to call the API command, and the function name is classify. Okay, so that is my function name I have created. Now I need to pass a query string parameter called URL. And now I'm going to go back here and copy this particular URL and just use it. Okay. So I have got a much more better GitHub URL I have got. So it's the same URL in here. So as you can see, I'm going to pass that URL in here and run that. So my function is now running. The model is ready. As you can see here, this is the output I'm seeing as part of my function. So this is my function which I'm running, the demo func AI, and the output what we are expecting to see. Let us see whether it matches to what we are expecting to see. There you go. I'm 26.05% sure I see Bart Simpson there. So that gives you how you can use your Azure function in order to test the model that you have created in the previous lab. So we trained our model using a set of Simpson images. Then we created an Azure function, and then we used that as part of the testing process of the model. So that's pretty much how you go about going and creating a model using Visual Studio Code. And then how can you use the Azure function in order to test the model. I think I tried to cover off even though a 2-hour lab in like 45, one hour, pretty much we used up, right? So in a 1 hour time. So
Yeah, it was
again,
great actually. It's
yeah, so
really comprehensive.
yeah, and also on time. So pretty much covered off the end to end. But as usual, like you have our meetup channels available, both the Auckland and Wellington meetup channels. So if you have any questions post this session or any doubts related to, okay, I got stuck with this, how do I continue with that? Feel free to reach out to us and we are happy to help. And with that note, I'll hand over back to Indira and Leila.
Thank
So
you, Anu. That was great, actually. So, yeah, that's a really, so you see that how kind of flexibility we have inside using Azure Function. That's really great. So yeah, so already explained that it's recorded. So if you join in middle, so don't worry, you will access to the recording. I will email you or through the Eventbrite, you will be accessed. You have the material for the parts that Anu talk about that. So, and also you have the pass for the Azure pass that Indira created. So you can actually go and practice that one till you have credit. So it's kind of a good opportunity. In the same time, again, I share the links for the people who just join a bit later after about some of the free materials for kind of learning data science for beginner and also machine learning for beginner. So if you want to share it or you want to use it or with others, please have access to them. They are really good materials. I really love the learning path and taught materials that we have in Microsoft Learning Path. They are step by step, and I think it's really good to follow. Okay, so what else, Indira?
Just one reminder I want to add is once you activate the Azure Pass, you will have it only for 1 month. So you need to use that for 1 month. Yeah. Just
So
remember.
that's a good one because they can have go for months. You have the time, the free one. So just go and try these things. It's really good to at least a chance to try.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are going to kind of before wrap up. Let's have a fun. So let's me share a link with you guys. So
If
we
you
are
feel
going to
comfortable, please turn on your videos.
yes, please. Yes, please. Okay, I shared the link. Here we are going to kind of play a bingo together. So I can, okay. So I'm going to kind of read the word. So you just need to click on that. It's going to kind of tick off that. So let's play on that a bit. Just let me see. I see one person join. So let's see, everyone join too. So we need more. Please join. Just
have
click on
generated.
that link. So we need more people. So see, just a couple of minutes so everyone can join. And I didn't start to read. Also, yeah, if you have camera, please share your camera so we can have a picture together, if you like. Or let's see. Also, can I stop the recording, Indira? Is it okay to stop it now?
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. Stop it.